Well, it's all about getting back to business, whether you're talking about states that are slowly unwinding stay-at-home provisions or, well, the airline industry, which is trying now with the help of some federal money, tens of billions of dollars worth of federal money to keep them afloat, to counter what has been a better than 95% drop in bookings and traffic just since the start of the year when this virus essentially first hit. With us now, the Transportation Secretary of the United States, Elaine Chao. Secretary, very good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Now, what is the breakdown of the money the airlines are receiving? I know it's not an equal amount among each airline, but does it break down to 70% of it being a grant, 30% of it a loan? Just explain how it's working, how many have gotten it.
Well, basically, the $50 billion that was the CARES Act, which was signed by the president on March 27th, provided $50 billion for the airline industry and travel agents and also ground crews as well. So it's not just totally to the airlines. Furthermore, there are about 257 airlines that share that money as well. There's 6 major ones that we all know about, but it's actually money that's quite dispersed. Number 2, about 50% of it originally was supposed to go to grants, 50% was supposed to go to loans. But the Treasury is administering this program, and a certain part of the grants will be low-interest loans. So overall, it's going to be a combination of loans and grants. And of course, as part of these, this disbursement of funds, there will be some equity that will be taken by the government in the form of warrants. And
all right, so the taxpayers might get something back on this. Go ahead.
Well, we hope that this money is supposed to meet payroll, first and foremost. I mean, 90% of it is going to be maintaining payroll and operations. And so as the Secretary of Transportation, I'm concerned about the safe operations of the transportation system. And I'm also concerned about workers' payrolls, workers' jobs.
You know, the workers have been concerned that the few people who are flying these days, Secretary, they're not wearing masks. In fact, it's quite routine for a lot of people crowded in planes. 8 out of 10 of them aren't. Do you think they should?
You know, we're just not accustomed to it as a country. We see other, other countries with its population wearing gloves and masks. It's quite common. For us, we are not used to that. So we have to get used to it. And some people are going to wear it and some people are not. We should really listen to the public health experts. United Airlines is thinking about asking their crew to put on masks. But at this point, with a 96% drop in passenger volume, I mean, the load factor is about 4%. There can be social distancing on airplanes these days. And the airliners are, taking they're doing it their own way. They're not putting passengers in the middle seat. They're spacing the passengers out. They're cleaning the cabins much more frequently. They're asking their crews to not use the same equipment and giving more flexibility to flight attendants, for example, to show the safety procedures, not necessarily using the same
Secretary,
equipment.
you mentioned flight attendants. You mentioned flight attendants. The flight attendants union was among those saying they got to be wearing masks. Passengers have to wear masks. It's dangerous enough for us on these planes, and then a bunch of coughing, hacking folks come on board here. We're in danger, so that it should be required. You say? So
as mentioned, the tremendous decrease in passenger volume is a reality these days. So many of our airplanes are going with less than their usual load factor. But having said that, the safety of the passengers, the safety of the crew is important. And so we are encouraging the unions and management of the airlines to talk to one another. And we are also participating in bringing them together and talking about some of these issues. But the airlines are already taking steps for social distancing on board the planes. They're also taking steps to frequently clean the planes, cabins, more than they have before. But again, these are issues that we're all facing together, that we have to talk to one another about and decide on a path forward.
Are you worried, though, that even when it's cleared for people to sort of venture out a little bit more, they're not going to, they'll be afraid to be on crowded planes. They'll be afraid to go into restaurants and theaters and all that, that this could take some time. And lo and behold, this money that's been provided, certainly to the airlines and certainly needed, they could blow through that much like we just blew through the first tranche of the small business loans, right?
Well, the president just signed today another $500 billion in assistance, primarily to small businesses and hospitals. That's why, the economy has to come back. And so the whole of government approach is getting ready for that, but in a phased, deliberative fashion, which is why the president last Thursday talked about a three-phase return of the economy. And so much of it is going to depend on, each of the individual states. So the governors are going to have to decide for their own state
how best
to handle a
part.
recovery.
Secretary,
Absolutely.
thank you